Today is Sunday, August 31st, the battle between the 1.0 Jesus and the 2.0 Jesus. The gospel reading for today is from Luke 14:1 and 7:14 from the New Revised Standard Version. On one occasion when Jesus was going to the house of a leader of the Pharisees to eat a meal on the Sabbath, they were watching him closely. When he noticed how the guests chose the places of honor, he told them a parable. When you are invited by someone to a wedding banquet, do not sit down at the place of honor in case someone more distinguished than you has been invited by your host. And the host invited both of you may come and say to you, give this person your place, and then in disgrace you would start to take the lowest place. But when you're invited, go and sit down in the lowest place, so that when your host comes, he may say to you, friend, move up higher, then you will be honored in the presence of all who sit at the table with you. For all who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. He said also to the one who had invited him, when you give a luncheon or dinner, do not invite your friends or your brothers or your relatives or rich neighbors, in case they may invite you in return and you would be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind. And you will be blessed because they cannot repay you, for you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous. In short, Jesus asks us to be humble, to put others ahead of ourselves. He particularly points out the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind, and basically, so be kind and welcoming to anyone and everyone in our path. This short reading is what I call the basic plan of Jesus 1.0. Now on to Jesus 2.0, a project of the Conservative Heritage Foundation, which basically instituted the Project 2025. Jesus 2.0 statement of values. Listen to the difference. This document itself sets out four main policy claims: to restore the family as the centerpiece of American life, to dismantle the administrative state, defend the nation's sovereignty and borders, and secure God-given individual rights to live freely. This project proposes that the entire federal bureaucracy, including independent agencies such as the Department of Justice, be placed under direct presidential control. A controversial idea known as a unitary executive theory. The proposal also calls for eliminating job protections for thousands of government employees who could then be replaced by government appointees when qualified. The document labels the FBI a bloated, arrogant, increasingly lawless organization. That's all I have. It calls for drastic overhauls of the agency and several others, as well as a complete elimination of the Department of Education. Shortly after being sworn in, Trump moved to eliminate job protections for the career civil servants and freeze federal spending. Now on to abortion and family. I can't contain all of that because states are taking their own action now. But the mentions of abortion in Project 225, there are about 200 of them, have sparked some of the most contentious debate. It proposes withdrawing the abortion pill, misoprostol, from the market and by using existing but little enforced laws to stop the drug being sent through the post. The document proposes new data collection on evidence on abortion and more generally suggests that the Department of Health and Human Services should maintain a biblically based social science reinforced definition of family and marriage. You're eliminated, and I am too, sure. He also issued an executive order designed to stop federal funds from being used for abortion, a move that was outlined in this document. On immigration, there's increased funding for a wall on the U.S.-Mexico border, one of Trump's signature proposals in 2016. A pledge to deport millions of undocumented immigrants is not spelled out in any detail, But this includes mass arrests, no checking of immigration status, sending the ones collected randomly to other countries to be imprisoned indefinitely with no legal recourse. Construction of large detention centers with no oversight or accountability. Along the new Mexican coast, armed military guard the coastline to prohibit anyone from landing. And a new one. If it were not a serious subject, it would be laughable. Trump wants the border wall painted black to make it too hot to climb. Go ahead and laugh, but here is the official statement. The trail of the border fence painted black stems from an August 2025 announcement by South Dakota Kristi Noem and the DHS Secretary Mike Banks, who stated that a portion of the southern border wall will be painted black at the request of the president. The intention is to deter illegal border crossings by making the destruction even hotter to the touch in the desert sun, making it difficult for people to climb over. The paint is also intended to protect children. Oh, come on. Can you imagine a tired, terrified, hungry family coming at the border and saying to each other, this looks too difficult. There's no way we can get over a block wall. Let's go home and get persecuted some more. Energy and climate and trade. The new administration wants to ramp up all fossil fuel production, taking the U.S. out of the Paris Agreement on climate change, which seeks to limit emissions and global warming, slashing federal money for research and investment in renewable energy. The document sets out two competing visions on tariffs. Increasing tariffs at will is Trump's pleasure, slashing corporate and income taxes, abolishing the Federal Reserve. Then on to education and DEI. Trump moved to end diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and decreed that the government departments would recognize only two genders. Greater school choice, essentially subsidizing religious and public and private schools with public funds, which was also the subject of an early Trump executive order, abolishing the Department of Education. It's very easy to read the gospel on this list of Project 2025 very rapidly and as a totally objective observer, believing that neither one is really important enough to think about or act on, that at least Project 2025 doesn't really affect your own life. I recently began talking with a young matron in our favorite coffee shop. I asked her if she was a registered voter. She declared she was not and did not think her vote mattered. Let me tell you several ways it has already impacted Cheryl's in my life directly. The first was to go about daughter's promotion. She had a job at the VA hospital that she held for a long time, and she had to turn down a well-led promotion because she would have to be on base status for 2 years, and her job could disappear overnight. Another daughter has been kept waiting to get an appointment with the drastically diminished Social Security office. She's still waiting. Her newly graduated granddaughter, Colleen, was about to take her first job when Trump cut the workforce, eliminated all the newly hired and is yet to arrive. And now, Cheryl and I got married in 2005, exchanging our vows first in front of my two Italian greyhounds and kittens. It was not until November of 2008 we were able to be legally married in California 3 days before it was again outlawed. Our relationship and lives are yet again on the chopping block. Project 2025 actually is not that new. It is based on the rise to power of Hitler in 1933. It involves especially threatening the state-sponsored Lutheran Church into submission. The individual pastor was paid by the state, so if he dared to protest, he is fortunate just to lose his job, and some, like Bonhoeffer, were actually arrested and hanged just weeks before the war and the Western Front ended. So he wrapped up his heinous agenda by controlling and silencing the churches. As for the desirables, such as the deaf, Jews, and gypsies, gays, and any other undesirables, well, his concentration camps had gas ovens to treat their unfortunate captives with closing gas. And yet the church still stayed silent. The total number of those gassed in the prison camps was around 13 million, not even counting the millions and millions of dead soldiers and civilians from the Allied countries fought against and eventually prevailed against them. The battle was finally won, and 1945, but today it continues in other form. The thing that I admire most about Project 2025 is that it is the platform of Christian nationalism. How ironic and almost strangely full that Jesus 1.0 and Jesus 2.0 are diametrically the opposite, but they offer a clear and present choice. Do we build walls or invite people to our table and feed them with no regard to their race, social status, immigration status, gender identity? We are in a battle against the forces of darkness, masquerading as being Christian. There is nothing Christian about them. They have been and continue to make Jesus and his message twisted, perverted, even in some places armed with a rifle. There was a very early game show called Tell the Truth. In the original game show, a panel of celebrity guests voted on which of the three contestants was telling the truth about a particular claim or identity. For every wrong vote, the challengers received the challenge whose incorrect guess was selected as the most plausible and won a portion of the prize money, ranging from $100 up to a maximum of $500 for the challengers. The prize money now seems like a mere pittance. Let's play a similar version of it. So think for a moment. Then look at the two contrasting posters of Jesus. Which one would you hang in your bedroom? There's no monetary reward for choosing the right one, but the stakes are so much, much higher. What kind of a world do we want to live in, to pass on to our children and grandchildren? Think carefully, then choose. The world is holding its breath.